The Jonathan Taylor situation just got so much uglier. I mean,
This morning, controversy still brewing about running back Jonathan Taylor.
The all-pro running back for the Indianapolis Colts has formally requested a trade.
Something that's going to stay between us, Bob,
I think the Indianapolis Colts are actively trying to screw him out of his current contract.
Reports that the Colts are considering putting Taylor on the non-football injury list, and that move could result in him not getting paid for the regular season.
And this is without a doubt an act of war by the Indianapolis Colts. So we have a lot to get to. Before we get to the content, when the NFL season starts, we're giving away $1,000 split between 5 subscribers that turn on their notifications on this channel. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The running back position is in some trouble, and it's steadily declined over the past 2 decades. In the 1990s, you would see teams do absolutely anything that they possibly could to get themselves a talented running back. This is primarily because quarterbacks during those generations weren't necessarily capable of throwing the ball 50 yards down the field or attempting 40 to 50 passes per game. You look at the successful teams of the 1990s, and most of them would have a successful running back on the team, whether it's the Dallas Cowboys, who featured Emmitt Smith, who quite literally had to hold out during a period of time in order to get a contract extension, which at the time Jerry Jones wasn't willing to budge on until the holdout went into the middle of the season and Jerry Jones had no choice but to pay Emmitt Smith. Or if it's the Green Bay Packers with Amon Green, Denver Broncos with Terrell Davis, the St. Louis Rams with Marshall Faulk, who the Indianapolis Colts traded to the St. Louis Rams, and that is one of the many reasons they started to contend. You would see teams be uber aggressive to get themselves a franchise running back, whether it was the New Orleans Saints during the 1999 NFL draft, where they quite literally traded their entire haul of draft picks in order to get themselves Ricky Williams, which it didn't end up working out, by the way. The San Diego Chargers quite literally trading the right to select Michael Vick with the #1 overall pick so they could trade down to the 5th overall pick to select LaDainian Tomlinson, who is probably one of the final halfbacks an entire team was built around for, because the final one, in my opinion, is none other than Adrian Peterson, the last truly dominant running back that was able to carry his team. Throughout the 2010s, a brand new trend came to light. As a result of quarterbacks becoming more capable, in addition to a greater emphasis being placed on edge rushing and the offensive line, the running back position became more and more devalued, primarily because running backs kind of stagnated while everything else progressed. Running backs were very easily injured, and it eventually got to a point where paying a running back a significant amount of money was seen more as a liability. Why would you want to pay a running back $13 to $14 million a year when you have to pay your franchise QBs something close to $50 million a year annually now? You need to get someone that could protect his blind side, and then following that, you need to pay someone that could rush opposing quarterbacks an exorbitant amount of money. It just didn't make any more sense. Running backs were seen more as a novelty. In football, you first want to pay the quarterback, then you want to pay the man that protects the quarterback, then you want to pay the person that rushes the quarterback, and then you want to pay the individual that receives passes from the quarterback. And maybe after that, you pay the person that is in charge of defending the man that is supposed to receive passes from the quarterback. Running backs are at the very bottom of the totem pole, and as a result of this, there's been a huge war. And things came to a breaking point when Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley didn't get contract extensions from their team. As a matter of fact, the plan for the Las Vegas Raiders was obvious, although I think they kind of flopped at executing this plan. Originally, the Las Vegas Raiders, for whatever reason, declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year team option, and they decided to run Josh Jacobs to the ground, giving him a career-high rushing attempts last year. The result? Josh Jacobs led the NFL in rushing and was set to cash in free agency, but the Las Vegas Raiders decided to franchise tag him. In Saquon Barkley's case, he had a resurgent season with the New York Giants, The New York Giants would reward him with a 3-year, $36 million contract extension. He would turn down the contract extension, asking for $15 to $16 million a year, which the Giants turned down. The Giants would then franchise tag Saquon Barkley. He would then ask for the original contract extension again. Giants would tell him no, and Saquon eventually signed a 1-year, $11 million contract with the Giants, so he lost his right to hold out. This started unrest within running backs in the NFL. And Nick Chubb said it the best. Right now, there's nothing we can do. We're kind of handcuffed with the situation. We're the only position that our production hurts us the most. If we go out there and run 2,000 yards with so many carries, the next year they're going to say, you're probably worn down. It's tough, and it hurts us at the end of the day. In this Zoom call, running backs try to figure out a way that they could get some more money. At first, they were blaming the agents, creating false expectations for these running backs. Even had some running backs thinking that, hey, maybe if we fake some injuries or exaggerate our injuries, we would be able to convince our teams to pay us a little bit more. Keep that in mind, because that's going to be very relevant when we get to Jonathan Taylor. Ultimately, my take on the matter is what Travis Etienne said. Take a look.
I really don't have a word in that, honestly. I feel like the market is what the market is, and for me to go out there and get the best deal for myself, I have to come out here and work hard each and every day. If I don't produce or be productive, I'm not going to even be in that conversation, or they're not really looking to pay me. So best thing I could do is just keep my head down and keep working and win games for my football team. But I feel like it also depends on the type of back you are. Because you definitely see some backs get paid, like Christian McCaffrey. For instance, he catches the ball at the backfield. So I feel like for running backs moving forward, you have to diversify your game. You have to just be more than just a downhill bruiser in order to be able to be on that level, in order to talk that leverage whenever you go into the conversations. We have to continue to grow and evolve our game, because you see the way that football is going. You see it's a passing league now. And we just have to evolve as a whole.
I agree with Travis Etienne, because if you look at every running back that got a major contract extension recently, they were able to do more than just rush the football. You look at Christian McCaffrey, he was dynamic in the passing game and is one of the best running backs in the NFL, between the tackles and in zone running. You look at Alvin Kamara, and he is one of the best running backs from scrimmage as well, has a huge impact in the passing game. Even Ezekiel Elliott established himself as one of the best pass blocking running backs in the entire NFL. That's why he got his huge contract extension. That, and I think Jerry Jones had some PTSD with what happened with Emmitt Smith. So ultimately, despite what Saquon Barkley says in this clip before signing his horrible contract, the running back position has no leverage.
I could say to the Giants, I could say to my teammates and be like, you want me to show you my worth? You want to show you how valuable I am to the team? I won't show up. I won't play it down. And that's a play I can use. Like I might have to take it to this level, and like, am I prepared to take it to the level?
And this brings us all to the Jonathan Taylor situation. Jim Irsay is a very outspoken NFL owner, and he recently said that the NFL running back situation, we have negotiated a CBA that took years of effort and hard work and compromise in good faith by both sides. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Some agents are selling bad faith, and I think this is one of those things that Jim Irsay should have probably kept to himself, as we discussed in our original video on the subject, because Malky Kawa, Jonathan Taylor's agent, would clap back at Jim Irsay saying that bad faith is not paying your top offensive player. This made the story go a little bit viral. That tweet got 2.7 million views. Now, Jim Irsay did try to do some damage control at this point, saying that his comments were not directed at Jonathan Taylor. The comment wasn't really directed at Jonathan. We haven't exchanged any contract numbers with each other or anything like that. So it's not like we're in the midst of that. I think we had a tough season last year, didn't win a lot of games. This is a year about coming back together and having a great year, and we're really depending on Jonathan to team up with Anthony Richardson to try to pull together to have a great year. It seems like at that point, it was too little too late, because Jonathan Taylor would have a meeting with Jim Irsay, and this meeting would result in Jim Irsay telling Jonathan Taylor straight up that he's probably not going to offer him a contract extension.
Not be surprised, it's something that's going to stay between us, Bob, but it was just a good conversation, and again, we're just, hopeful and going forward, looking forward to a great season, hoping, hoping Jonathan's a big part of that, and so.
And the result of this was Jonathan Taylor demanding a trade on Saturday, which we got to you guys almost immediately. We had to rush to put that one together for you, so we really hope you enjoyed it. I'm hoping to fill in the blanks with this video. Jim Irsay's response to this was very holier than thou. If I die tonight and Jonathan Taylor is out of the league, no one's gonna miss us. The league goes on. We know that. The National Football League rolls on. Doesn't matter who comes and who goes, and it's a privilege to be a part of it. He would end this off by saying, no matter what, the Indianapolis Colts are not trading Jonathan Taylor. End of discussion, not now and not in October. So Jonathan Taylor isn't on the trade block. And this is where things get very sketchy, because currently Jonathan Taylor has a number of options. He could try to hold out, but he would lose payment for this entire year. And we saw how that went for Le'Veon Bell. At the same time, we saw how that went for Emmitt Smith in the 90s. There's times where it works, and there's times where it just doesn't work at all whatsoever. In this particular case, if I'm Jonathan Taylor, I would probably suit up, because if you take a look at the history of players holding out, you have Le'Veon Bell in 2018, that didn't go well for him at all. Melvin Gordon in 2019, that didn't work out for him either. It worked out for Ezekiel Elliott and Alvin Kamara, but I think they have an additional skill set as well. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, and this is what I perceive as an act of war. The Indianapolis Colts are contemplating placing Jonathan Taylor on a non-football injury list due to a back injury he suffered away from the team. This means if Taylor didn't play this season, his contract would just go to 2024, and they would have the right to not pay him anything in 2023. The move has not been made yet, but the Colts continue to fight this one out publicly. Jonathan Taylor is 24 years old right now, so if he was to lose this year and not get paid until next year, that's essentially losing a year of pay. Every single year is crucial for running backs. Now, here's where it gets really sketchy, because although I saw this as an act of war by the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor responded to this tweet and said, 1, I never had a back pain, and 2, I never reported back pain. Not sure who sources are, but find new ones. It's really funny because at the same time, you're having Jim Irsay reportedly saying to Jonathan Taylor that no one treats players as well as this franchise. Now, this is coming from a source I've never heard of, but it has over 6 million views on Twitter at this point, and I don't think it's that crucial to the story. I think it's hilarious if Jim Irsay said this, though. I mean, no one treats players as well as this franchise. You're talking about a franchise that quite literally dumped Peyton Manning when he had to get neck surgery, and Peyton Manning would go to the Denver Broncos and end up winning a Super Bowl and making it to a Super Bowl. He was the pilot of one of the most prolific offenses in NFL history, quite literally the year after he left. And that's before we even talk about Andrew Luck. I mean, they destroyed Andrew Luck and made him hate the game of football. And this man was supposed to be a player that won multiple Super Bowls for the organization, and they completely mismanaged his career, and we have our own video on that. So I don't necessarily know about no one treating players as well as the Indianapolis Colts, but I think that's kind of irrelevant to the story at this point. Another thing that's very interesting at this point is the Indianapolis Colts don't have their backup halfback. Zach Moss suffered a broken arm in practice today, and he's expected to miss about 6 weeks. So what do I expect to happen now? Well, if Jonathan Taylor decides not to report, then the Indianapolis Colts could just sign a halfback that is available on the running back market. And if they choose correctly, they can drive a stake into the heart of the running backs in the NFL, essentially calling them useless. And there's a lot of running backs that are still available. Of course, at the time that I'm recording this video, Ezekiel Elliott is in talks with the New England Patriots. He recently had dinner with Mac Jones, so I don't necessarily know if he's still on the table. Dalvin Cook is being linked to the New York Jets, but technically he's still a free agent. If not, Kareem Hunt is available. Leonard Fournette is still available. So there are some cheap and effective options for the Indianapolis Colts should Jonathan Taylor not play this year. And Jonathan Taylor is in a very interesting situation because his contract expires following this season, because he wasn't drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. And so far, he's put together quite a career for himself. Even last year when he was injured, he still averaged 4.5 yards per carry, even though he only brought in 4 touchdowns, and fantasy football managers were a little disappointed. If he puts together a good season this year and he hits free agency, then I'm sure he'll get paid somewhere in the ballpark of $11 to $12 million a year for the next 3 to 4 seasons. And I feel like teams would be comfortable signing a 24-year-old to such a contract. Or the Indianapolis Colts could franchise tag him, which would still be quite a lot of money even though running backs aren't satisfied with the franchise tag. At this point though, I have to admit, this story is getting crazy and the Indianapolis Colts are doing some sketchy stuff in order to show Jonathan Taylor who's boss. So let me know in the comment section down below, whose side are you on here? Are you on Jonathan Taylor's or the Indianapolis Colts? Do you think Jonathan Taylor deserves to get paid? Or do you think the Indianapolis Colts have the right not to pay their star running back because the market doesn't dictate that's what his value is? Let me know in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.